Yo, how you doing, man? Yeah, good? How's the family? Yeah? Hey, listen, I'm about to film this tutorial for my YouTube fam, and I'm going to show them how you achieve that bass sound on Godzilla. Yeah. You cool with that? All right, thanks, Sam. All right, bye-bye. Welcome, everyone. JT here for delicatebeats.com. In this week's tutorial, I'm going to do something a bit different, and we're going to venture into the world of sound design. And I recreated the beat from Eminem's Godzilla to show you how you can achieve that bass sound. So let's hop on the computer, and I'm going to show you what I did.
delicatebeats.com.
All right, so here we are in Ableton Live 9, and I'm going to be using Serum today to recreate the sound. Now, just know that you can use pretty much any software synthesizer equipped with FM synthesis capabilities. So other plugins like Omnisphere, FM8, the DX7 by Arturia, or even probably Alchemy in Logic Pro 10 would do the trick. I prefer Serum because I like the interface, and that's really where you want to, that's how you want to choose your weapon of choice, is how the workflow feels to you. So in this tutorial, we're going to go over how to use envelopes to shape up the oscillators, shape up also our filters, and how we can use a second oscillator to modulate our first oscillator. Now, I know these terms are a bit technical, but you will see in a minute that those are the main concepts that you need to understand to be using any synthesizer to achieve these kinds of sounds. All right, so let's get started. Obviously, when you're doing sound design, you need a reference, and for copyright reasons, I'm obviously not going to play the original track, Godzilla by Eminem. Instead, I'm going to use my recreation of the sound as a reference, and we ended up with this. If I play the same note on my init patch, it sounds like this. So very different. We have a long way to go, so let's get started. On the main oscillator, you will need a saw wave, okay? By default, Serum comes with a saw wave. Make sure your synthesizer has a saw wave. The second step is to shape up this sound. It's a bass sound, it's kind of a staccato sound, so we need a different envelope. So what I'm going to do here is grab the sustain, and I'm going to move it right around here. Right now, nothing has changed yet. If we lower the slope, we can hear that it starts to get tighter. So let's leave it around here. Doesn't really matter. And now what we want to do is lengthen the release. When we do that, we just have to press gently and the note sustains all by itself. I'm also going to make the attack as tight as possible, as we want our bass sound to be very punchy. Next, we're going to use the same shape to modulate our filter. So let's arm this filter, and I'm going to make the slope of the filter a bit steeper like this. See how it changes shape? All right. So this low pass filter 18 is going to be my weapon, and I'm going to use this envelope to shape the way this opens and closes. So I'm going to drag and drop this bad boy right here on the cutoff. And in Serum, there are two ways to modulate any of these knobs. You have the envelope going both ways, but what I want to do is press Shift and Alt and click so that it only modulates the opening of the filter. And now I can just lower it like this, and I'm actually going to show you what it does if we don't move it. Right now it just closes, and it ends up where I put the knob, which is all the way down, pretty much closed. If I were to do it like this, we'll have a much open, more aggressive sound. That's not what we want. So let's put it like this, and I'm also going to make it so that it doesn't go all the way up. So again, I'm going to get a more muffled sound. Something like this works for now. Now we're going to use our second oscillator, and as I've said at the beginning of the tutorial, this oscillator is not part of the sound. So I'm going to arm it, and I'm going to lower the level all the way down. This is really just a modulator. So we need a sine wave. For FM synthesis, the best, most all-around, if you will, waveform shape is sine. You can use all of the basic shapes, you know, square, pulse width modulation, PWM, and saw wave. But usually the main weapon when it comes to FM synthesis is sine. So we're going to use this sine, and now we're going to tell oscillator 1 or oscillator A that it needs to be using FM and get modulated from oscillator B. Now if we press on any key, it still sounds pretty much the same. Now what's interesting about FM synthesis is that you can find some sweet spots. Spots where it starts to change, right? So this is where it becomes a matter of taste. Obviously, recreating an FM synthesis patch is very, very difficult because you don't know the exact value here. Any percent that you change the knob around dramatically changes the quality of the sound. So I'm liking around 65%. Now, just to beef up our sound a little bit, just a little bit, I'm also going to turn on the sub oscillator. Right now, if we don't modulate anything, it sounds like this. And you can hear, if you have big speakers or good headphones, that the note is a bit too long. It doesn't follow the same envelope as the rest of the sound. So again, we're going to use this envelope to modulate the level of the sound on the sub, and basically I want it to start and go back to 0. And if we just move it up a little bit like this, just beef it up a little bit on the low end. So now let's play our reference again. So it's very, very close, but still I feel like the original or the recreation, the reference is a bit more muffled. So let's open up our FX, and we're going to do certain things. First, I'm going to turn on the hyper dimension just to give it a bit more width in the stereo field. Kind of acts like a chorus also. I'm just going to move down the wet knob here. It's a little before and after. Just gives it a bit more, you know, roundness. Next up, I think I'm going to use an equalizer, and we're going to remove just a little bit of the low mids again to tighten up that bass sound. So let's lower the gain. Let's make it a bell shape. Let's probably have something like this, and 210 hertz is pretty right. So see how it just removes just a little bit of mud. And then the main thing we need is another filter. So let's make this a steep curve, something like 24. Obviously, we're not going to need much. Again, it's very difficult to recreate the exact same filter. And we're going to see in a minute that if I add at the very end of my chain a compressor, I'm just going to again, volume is a very, very deceptive tool, because the louder it gets, the more exciting it gets. And we're not necessarily closer to the original, but let's just use a little bit of compression like that and a lot of gain. And we're very, very close. Now we could tinker with the filter for hours on end. Maybe it's an 18 pole. And then maybe play around with the and we're very, very close. I would say like 97, 98%. And this is how we recreated the bass from Godzilla in Eminem's track. So the rest of the beat is pretty straightforward. I'm still going to show you how I achieved that little piano sound, the strings, and some of the drum programming. So again, let me show you. All right, so like I said, the rest of the track is really, really simple. First of all, we have this piano part that comes in and out. I think it comes in especially in the chorus, and it sounds like this. For this sound, I'm using Keyscape, my trusted piano plugin by Spectrasonics, and it's just this custom grand, the typical sound. What's interesting about it is the low cut. We're going all the way up to roughly 1,000 hertz. So it sounds like this normally. We cut all of that hum, that little bass. And the chords are really just two chords. So this one, which is, and then so that's it. Now let's look at the drums. Like I said, the drums really, if you have any old trap drum kit from Atlanta, whether it be Superstar or Zaytoven, you'll have all of these sounds. Hey! 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 And I just want to show you real quick something that I did, because I was hearing like 3 different layers on the hi-hats. So obviously we have the first hi-hat that goes like this. For this hi-hat, I'm using my kit Black Diamonds because there are basically 2 loops. And as you'll see here visually, we go from I think 16th notes to 32nd notes. Or is it 8th to 16th? I can never tell. So because I'm lazy, I'm using my Black Diamonds library because it has already in there programmed hi-hat loops. And then what I did was to layer that and pan different sounds. So I also have this percussion sound. In the real track, it sounds like a bed squeaking. I couldn't really tell, but it has the same effect. And finally, we have a third sound, which is kind of a Foley with more texture in it that I panned on the left. And all together, during the chorus, our hi-hats sound like this. So it's really close to the original. If you pay attention, obviously it's very low in the mix. And one last thing I want to show you are the orchestral strings during the build. And what I did was very simple. I used the same MIDI information from the bass, but I had it play on 2 different octaves. So So if we look at the MIDI right here, and for this sound, I'm using my trusted Adagietto library by ADO Productions. And what I did, because the sound was very clean, I used an OTT to make it more hard, harsh, and I have an auto filter in there just to cut off some of the high frequencies. So without it, it sounds like this. And I could tell by referencing with the original track that the strings are a lot more muffled, so I ended up with this. And with everything, it sounds like this. And that's about it, folks. I also interspersed my little arrangement with some explosion sounds. Another difference with the original is just how many different layers of the original bass they have. They'll filter it, high pass it, bunch of different effects, but really once you get the main bass part locked in, you kind of have the whole sauce for the beat. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And on this note, if you liked it, share it on social media, like the video, and subscribe to the channel to help us put out more quality content. So on this note, my name is JT. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.